Crumbling ruins only tell the last page of a much longer story. The real history of ancient sites is often hidden within their deep core foundations, layers buried far below what our eyes can see. This video will fundamentally change how you understand the timeline of human civilization. We will uncover how structures like the Great Pyramid or Angkor Wat were built upon the footprints of societies, so old their names are lost to time. You will learn the methods revealing these ghost layers beneath the earth, and why their existence suggests a past of forgotten brilliance and interconnected cultures. By the end, you will see the entire map of ancient history not as a straight line, but as a series of cycles, with each new beginning built upon the bones of the last. What forgotten chapter of human ambition lies directly beneath your feet? These deep foundational layers are far more than just buried rock. They are a hidden language of engineering and intent, spoken by cultures separated by vast stretches of time. To truly understand an ancient site, you must learn to read this subterranean text. The visible ruins we admire today are merely the final sentence in a story written across. The real narrative is found in the deep core foundations, the massive stone footings and geometrically perfect platforms that were deliberately buried, sealed away as the bedrock for a new vision. This act of burial is what makes them so invaluable. Protected from the elements and later modifications, these foundational elements become a pristine time capsule. They offer a stratigraphic record, a vertical timeline where each layer of earth and stone corresponds to a different chapter of human ambition. The deeper you go, the further back in time organic materials trapped within the soil. These cores reveal the hidden discontinuities in a site's life. A team might find the crushed limestone foundation of a Roman villa, and just beneath it, a layer containing pottery shards from a Bronze Age settlement. This simple discovery tells a profound story of a location that was important long before the Romans ever arrived. The soil itself offers precise clues. Microfossils, ancient pollen, and even layers of volcanic ash act as chronological markers. When subjected to techniques like radiocarbon analysis, these elements create a reliable timeline, allowing experts to assign dates to each phase of construction and occupation. A stunning example of this comes from in Turkey. The famous stone circles there, already rewriting history, were found to be built upon something even older. Core samples revealed the footprints of previously unknown ritual structures buried deeper still, pushing the origins of complex society back by centuries. So how does this change our understanding of the past? It suggests that cultural knowledge and technological skill were not always lost and rediscovered. Instead, they may have been continuously transferred, with one people building directly upon the sacred ground, and perhaps even the architectural principles of their predecessors. This seamless continuity, read from a column of soil, points toward a past far more interconnected than we once believed. Another powerful tool reads the Earth's hidden text without ever breaking the surface. Ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, sends high-frequency radio waves deep into the soil. These waves bounce back when they hit something with a different density, like a buried stone wall or a filled-in pit. The returning signals are then assembled by a computer into a detailed three-dimensional map of everything hidden below. It is a form of non-invasive imaging, a way to see through the ground as if it were transparent. Archaeologists can slowly tow a GPR unit across a field or a ruin, and with every pass, they collect more data, building a picture of a lost world layer by layer. This technology is exceptionally skilled at revealing the complex geometry of deep-core foundations. Different materials reflect the radar waves with unique signatures. A solid stone foundation will create a bright, sharp echo on the scan, while a layer of compacted clay or the void of an ancient post hole will show up as a distinct anomaly. This allows researchers to not only find buried structures, but also to distinguish between different construction phases. They can see how a rough, early stone platform was later enveloped by a more refined and massive foundational slab, telling a story of technological advancement and changing ambitions at a single location. The Roman Forum provides a classic example. The grand marble temples and basilicas we see today are just the surface layer. GPR surveys have painted a startling picture of what lies beneath, revealing the ghostly outlines of Iron Age huts and ritual pits. This shows the heart of the Roman Empire was built directly upon a much older, sacred village, its foundations literally supporting the weight of an empire. At Stonehenge, this technology has rewritten the monument's story. Surveys have uncovered a vast, hidden landscape of processional avenues and numerous ritual pits arranged in celestial patterns, all buried deep below the visible stones. These findings point to a multi-phase construction that unfolded over thousands of years, a project of staggering duration that we are only now beginning to appreciate. The true gift of this method is its gentleness. It allows us to explore and understand the most fragile sacred sites without disturbing a single grain of soil, preserving their integrity for future generations while still unlocking their deepest secrets. This technological bridge to the past reveals not just the shapes of buried foundations, but also the incredible ingenuity of the materials chosen to last for eternity. The very stones these foundations are built from hold a secret history of their own. Lithic analysis, the study of stone tools and construction materials, allows us to read this geological memoir. By examining the mineral composition, weathering patterns, and even microscopic tool marks on foundational stones, experts can unlock profound clues about the age and cultural affiliations of the deepest construction layers. It is a form of geological detective work that asks not just who built something, but where they got their materials and how they put them together. A foundational block's origin story is written in its crystalline structure. Petrographic analysis involves slicing a tiny, translucent section of stone and viewing it under a microscope. This reveals a unique mineral fingerprint, a specific combination of crystals and sediments that can be matched to a known quarry, sometimes hundreds of kilometers away. The discovery of such far-traveled stone in a deep foundation layer is like finding a passport stamp. Undeniable proof of ancient trade routes and interaction spheres that existed long before the surface ruins took shape. Consider the foundational granite blocks of the Egyptian pyramids. The precision of their shaping, with drill holes that appear circular and incredibly smooth, presents a puzzle. Some researchers point to the advanced techniques evident in these deep-core stones, arguing they may predate the dynastic Egyptians, suggesting a pre-pharaonic civilization already possessed sophisticated engineering knowledge. This is not just about moving massive stones, but about a mastery of material science that seems to appear fully formed in the archaeological record. Another powerful example comes from in Turkey. In the very deepest, oldest layers of this ancient city, archaeologists found obsidian flakes, a volcanic glass prized for its sharp edges. The chemical signature of this obsidian was traced to volcanoes located hundreds of kilometers away. This simple finding, buried at the roots of the settlement, points to a widespread network of exchange and communication, an interconnectedness that flourished long before the famous city above it ever rose. So what do these material journeys tell us? They reveal that knowledge and ambition were not isolated. The movement of stone across vast distances implies the movement of people, and with them, the transmission of ideas, techniques, and beliefs. A building method perfected in one region could travel along trade routes to influence the foundational plans of a culture an entire continent away. These stones are silent witnesses to a past far more dynamic and interconnected than a simple timeline of rising and falling empires can convey. But to anchor these stories in a solid timeline, we need to move from the story of the stone to the moment it was finally put in place. To anchor these material journeys in time, we turn to the silent clock hidden within organic remains. Radiocarbon dating measures the steady decay of a radioactive isotope, carbon-14, found in every living thing. Once a plant or animal ceases to live, this cosmic clock starts ticking, and by measuring how much carbon-14 remains in a piece of ancient wood, a bone, or charcoal trapped within a foundation, scientists can calculate its age with stunning accuracy. This technique provides absolute dates, transforming a relative sequence of layers into a precise calendar of human activity. Deep beneath the iconic palaces of Venice, core samples extracted from the waterlogged silt revealed something astonishing. Timber piles, the foundational stilts upon which the city was built, were dated to the 5th century before the Common Era. This was centuries before the official recorded founding of Venice, pointing to a previously unknown settlement of people living on the lagoon, their story preserved only in the wood buried far below the marble and stone. Radiocarbon dating is powerful, but it only works on materials that were once alive. To date the stone itself or the ceramics often found in foundational fills, other chronometric methods come into play. Thermoluminescence can date the last time a piece of pottery was fired, while optically stimulated luminescence reveals the last time a grain of sand was exposed to sunlight. Together, these techniques build a multifaceted timeline, cross-referencing different types of evidence to create an unshakable chronological framework for what lies beneath. This refined dating can completely upend historical narratives. In Bolivia, long thought to be a powerful city that rose rapidly during its classic period, organic materials from its deepest foundational layers were redated. The results were staggering, pointing to initial construction around 1500 years before the Common Era. This suggests the site was not a sudden flash of genius, but a place of slow, continuous development over. A spiritual and political center with a history far longer and more complex than anyone had suspected. How does this challenge our view of ancient civilizations? It forces us to move beyond simple stories of sudden rise and dramatic collapse. These precise dates reveal a rhythm of long gestation, of cultural knowledge simmering for ages in a location before it ever blossomed into the grand city we study today. The timeline is not a series of isolated peaks, but a rolling landscape of continuous human effort. This invites us to look at specific, legendary sites where the ground has begun to tell a completely new story. The sands of Giza have whispered a familiar story for generations, a tale of pharaohs and pyramids built in a single, glorious burst of the Old Kingdom. Yet the ground beneath tells a different, far older story. Deep core drilling around the Great Pyramid has pierced through time itself, revealing a limestone bedrock that was not merely a foundation, but a canvas. This bedrock was meticulously leveled and shaped by human hands, with tool marks etched into the stone that speak of a labor far predating the Fourth Dynasty. Sediment layers trapped within subterranean water channels suggest this massive engineering project began as early as 5,000 years before the Common Era. This was a time when the climate was different, a pre-dynastic wet period when the Sahara was a green expanse. The very soil confirms this shift. Fossilized pollen and mollusk shells, pulled from deep core samples, paint a picture of a lush savanna, a landscape capable of supporting a society with the resources and vision to begin transforming this plateau. This evidence suggests the Giza complex was not a sudden creation, but a sacred site whose significance was recognized and built upon for thousands of years before the Great Pyramids ever cast their shadows. Ground-penetrating radar adds another layer to this mystery, mapping extensive networks of chambers and tunnels that weave like a hidden root system beneath the Sphinx enclosure. The orientation of these features is particularly compelling, as some align with celestial events from before the accepted Old Kingdom timeline. This is not to say Pharaoh Khufu did not build his magnificent tomb, but rather that he may have been the inheritor, not the originator. He may have chosen this specific location precisely because it was already ancient, a place of immense power and knowledge. And his pyramid was the ultimate expression of an architectural tradition that had been evolving for ages. This perspective fundamentally shifts our understanding from a story of isolated genius to one of accumulated wisdom, where each generation built upon the deep core foundations of the last. If the world's most famous ancient site holds such a profoundly older history, what does that mean for other legendary locations across the globe? A similar pattern of buried beginnings is emerging from the ancient Americas, where the Earth is revealing its own long-lost prologues. Half a world away from the Egyptian sands, another ancient metropolis guards a similar secret beneath its grand plazas. The immense Avenue of the Dead leading toward the Pyramid of the Sun feels like a monument to permanence. Yet its true story is one of constant, dramatic change, a narrative written in the deep foundations below. The visible city is merely the final draft of a text that was edited and rewritten for centuries. Core samples drilled beneath the Pyramid of the Sun struck not just more soil, but a stunning geological feature, a natural lava tube cave system. This was no accident of nature. The cave was deliberately widened and shaped by human hands, its walls marked with ritual art, long before the first stone of the pyramid was ever set in place. This reveals the site was a sacred center for an earlier culture, perhaps the or peoples, who recognized the spiritual power of this underground world. The mountain was holy long before it was a monument. The layers of construction above this cave tell a story of relentless renewal. Archaeologists have peeled back these strata like the pages of a history book, finding a sequence of plaster floors and adobe platforms, each one entombing the last. Every new floor represents a conscious decision to rebuild, to cover the old with a new vision. The artifacts sealed within these layers act as chronological markers. A stratum rich in distinctive orange pottery gives way to a layer filled with finely crafted obsidian blades, signaling not just the passage of time, but a shift in trade networks, technological skill, and cultural influence. This was not a city that was built once and finished. It was a living, breathing entity that constantly consumed its own past to fuel its future. Modern technology has allowed us to see the full scale of this metamorphosis without lifting a trowel. LIDAR scanning, which uses laser pulses to map the ground's surface through vegetation, has peeled back the overgrowth to reveal the city's ghostly blueprint. The scans show a vast network of buried irrigation canals and the foundational outlines of residential compounds that stretch for kilometers beyond the known city limits. This was not just a ceremonial center. It was a sprawling, densely populated metropolis that underwent cycles of explosive growth and controlled contraction. Its deep foundations depict a society of incredible adaptability, one that managed water, resources, and urban planning on a scale we are only beginning to appreciate. These insights fundamentally transform from a static ruin into a dynamic, pulsating heart of. It was not an isolated marvel, but a cultural sponge, absorbing and transforming influences from across the region. Its deep core layers show a resilience built not on rigid tradition, but on a fluid ability to incorporate new ideas, new people, and new technologies into its ever-evolving identity. The city's true legacy is this breathtaking adaptability, a testament to how ancient urban societies could thrive for centuries by building upon, rather than erasing, the foundations of the past. This pattern of layered resilience is not unique to the Americas. Far across the Pacific, in the humid jungles of Southeast Asia, another enigmatic kingdom left behind stones that tell a story of profound continuity. The grandeur of Angkor Wat stands not as a sudden creation, but as a final, magnificent layer laid upon a landscape of ancient ingenuity. Its iconic towers rise from a foundation platform of immense sandstone blocks, a testament to Khmer power, yet core samples tell a more complex story. Drilled deep beneath this platform, they reveal a hidden substrate of laterite pillars and older, differently shaped stones, bearing the distinct tool marks and wear patterns of a much earlier construction phase. This was not virgin ground. The Khmer were building upon the physical and spiritual footprint of a predecessor, a community that had already mastered this challenging environment. The true genius of this deep foundation lies in its relationship with water. Aerial radar surveys have peeled back the jungle canopy and the topsoil to reveal a stunning sight, a vast, geometric grid of canals and reservoirs buried beneath the forest floor. This intricate hydraulic system, essential for managing the region's violent monsoon rains and long dry seasons, dates back to the 9th century or even earlier. The Khmer Empire did not invent water management here, they inherited it and scaled it to an unprecedented degree. Sediment cores extracted from the temple's own moats act as a historical ledger. They contain layers of pollen from cultivated rice and fragments of charcoal from ancient land-clearing fires. Evidence of Iron Age agriculture that transformed this landscape 1,000 years before the first stone of Angkor Wat was ever set. This reveals a profound continuity. The site was chosen not just for its spiritual potential, but for its proven, long-term viability. The earlier community had already solved the core problem of survival, creating a sustainable balance with the water and the land. The Khmer builders saw this inherited infrastructure not as a ruin to be cleared, but as a foundation to be amplified. Their achievement was one of integration, weaving their new temples and expanded cities seamlessly into a pre-existing web of waterways and roadways, the ghostly outlines of which are now being mapped by ground-penetrating radar. What can these ancient adaptive strategies teach us today? In an era of climate challenges and urban sprawl, Angkor Wat's deep foundations offer a powerful lesson in resilience. They show that sustainable development is not always about building anew on empty land. It can be about listening to the wisdom buried in the ground, about understanding the long-term patterns of a place and building upon them. The Khmer civilization endured for generations not by conquering nature, but by integrating their grand vision into an ancient, functioning system. This seamless blend of old and new points toward a timeless principle that the most enduring legacies are often those that honor the foundations upon which they stand. Such a long-term perspective on survival and legacy was not only encoded in stone and soil, but also woven into the very myths these cultures told about themselves. The stories passed down through generations are far more than simple folklore. They are a form of cultural memory, a deep-time record encoded in narrative. Oral traditions and mythological accounts often hold startlingly accurate descriptions of deep core foundations, preserving the memory of construction phases so old they predate any written record. These stories act as living libraries, safeguarding knowledge of the land and its ancient transformations long after the original builders have faded from history. In Australia, the Aboriginal Dreamtime stories speak of ancestral beings who traveled across the continent, shaping the very hills and rivers and creating sacred sites. For countless generations, these narratives were shared orally, detailing the locations of specific stones and ceremonial grounds. Modern archaeology has found a remarkable correlation, uncovering ancient stone arrangements and tool-making sites buried deep beneath the surface. Their placement and purpose aligning perfectly with the descriptions preserved in these ancient songs and stories. The land itself remembers what history books cannot. This pattern of myth reflecting subterranean reality appears across the globe. The Hindu Puranas, for example, describe vast cycles of time where worlds are created, destroyed, and then rebuilt anew. This cosmological concept finds a physical parallel in the sacred city of Varanasi, one of the oldest continuously inhabited places on Earth. Stratigraphic excavations there reveal a stunning vertical history, with temple foundations built directly upon the ruins of earlier temples, layer upon layer. Exactly as the ancient texts describe a process of perpetual renewal upon hallowed ground, even legendary tales can offer contextual clues for researchers. The Greek myth of the labyrinth at Knossos, a vast, confusing maze built to contain the Minotaur, was long considered pure fantasy. Yet when Sir Arthur excavated the site, he uncovered the sprawling, complex foundation of the Minoan Palace. A multi-level structure with countless corridors and rooms that would have appeared utterly maze-like to later generations. The myth seems to be a folk memory, a distorted but recognizable echo of a real, massive foundation that had been buried and forgotten. This interplay between story and science opens a powerful new pathway to the past. By cross-referencing indigenous oral histories with data from ground-penetrating radar and core samples, researchers can construct a more holistic and respectful timeline. This approach bridges a long-standing divide, honoring the depth of cultural knowledge while validating it through empirical methods. It asks us to consider that our ancestors were not merely telling stories. They were transmitting vital historical and geological information in the most durable format they had, the human voice. How do we listen to these whispers from the deep past? The answer lies in recognizing that myth and soil are telling the same story, one written in words, the other in stone. This conversation between memory and material invites us to consider the very ground upon which these stories are built, and the immense planetary forces that first made these locations significant. The very ground a city stands upon is an active participant in its history. Geological features dictated the placement and persistence of ancient settlements, leaving a distinct signature within their deepest foundations. A strategic hilltop might be chosen for defense, but if that hill sits on a fault line, the foundational layers will bear the scars of repeated earthquakes. Each rebuilding effort, using the same prized location, inadvertently entombs the shattered remains of the previous era. The legendary city of Troy is a perfect example of this geological dialogue. Its famous hill was rebuilt at least 9 times, not just because of war, but due to seismic shifts and the slow, steady burial by alluvial deposits from nearby rivers. Each distinct cultural layer, from the Bronze Age to the Roman period, is separated by a stratum of earthquake rubble or flood silt, a natural punctuation mark in the city's long story. Beyond the immediate landscape, global climate patterns also wrote themselves into these foundational records. Scientists use environmental proxies like ice cores from distant glaciers or mineral deposits from cave stalactites to reconstruct ancient weather. These natural archives chronicle periods of devastating drought or generations of exceptional rainfall. By cross-referencing these climate timelines with dates obtained from deep core foundations, we can suddenly understand the forces behind a society's most crucial decisions. A foundational layer showing hasty reinforcement might perfectly align with a 200-year, a desperate attempt to secure a shrinking water supply. Conversely, a layer of abandonment, sealed under sterile silt, could correspond with a catastrophic flood that rendered the location uninhabitable. This turns a simple foundation into a testament to human resilience in the face of environmental challenges. Catastrophic events sometimes acted as the ultimate preservers of deep time. The Roman city of Pompeii is famous for its encapsulation by Mount Vesuvius in 79 Common Era, but deep core drilling reveals this was not the first time the volcano had reshaped the land. Beneath the Roman streets, cores have uncovered evidence of pre-Roman Oscan settlements, themselves buried by earlier prehistoric eruptions. In this unique context, the volcanic ash was not merely a destructive force. It created a series of sterile, protective seals, perfectly preserving snapshots of earlier cultures and their foundational remains, one on top of the other. This geological violence provided an immaculate stratigraphic record, gifting us with a clear view of the deep core layers that would have otherwise been lost to continuous rebuilding. Deciphering this complex interplay between human effort and planetary force is a delicate art. Archaeologists must carefully distinguish between a deliberately laid stone pavement and a naturally formed layer of caliche, a hard mineral crust. They must separate the post holes of an ancient dwelling from the burrows of long-vanished animals. This requires a nuanced understanding of local geology to ensure that a natural rock formation is not misinterpreted as a monumental platform. This geological perspective reveals a profound duality. It highlights the vulnerability of human societies to the immense power of the earth, while simultaneously celebrating their remarkable resilience. Our ancestors constantly adapted, rebuilt, and persevered, choosing again and again to lay new foundations upon the very ground that had tested them. This enduring dialogue with the planet directly influenced the architectural solutions they developed, pushing them to engineer foundations that could withstand not just the weight of their buildings, but the immense forces of nature itself. These architectural puzzles are not merely buried. They are a deliberate challenge to our understanding of history's timeline, built to last for the ages. Deep within the foundations of sites like in Peru, a profound anomaly stares back at us. The polygonal masonry here is a masterpiece of engineering, where colossal stones, some weighing hundreds of tons, are carved with intricate, asymmetrical edges that fit together like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. All without a trace of mortar. The precision is so exact that a single sheet of paper cannot be slipped between the seams. This technique creates a structure with unparalleled seismic resilience, allowing the walls to dance and settle during an earthquake without collapsing. While the Inca are credited with its final form, the foundational layers of this style exhibit a sophistication that some researchers argue points to a much older, mysterious predecessor culture. One that possessed a stoneworking knowledge so advanced it was later adopted and replicated, but perhaps never fully understood. This is not an isolated case. Off the coast of Japan lie submerged foundations that blur the line between nature and human artistry. Massive sandstone platforms form clean, geometric terraces, with what appear to be perfectly carved steps and sharp, 90-degree angles descending into the abyss. If these are natural formations, they are a geological miracle. If they are artificial, their construction would have required a workforce operating thousands of years ago, when sea levels were dramatically lower. Pushing the origins of complex Pacific civilization back into the fog of prehistory. The engineering principles encoded in these deep foundations speak a universal language of survival and celestial awareness. The Minoan palaces on Crete, for instance, were built upon foundations that incorporated early forms of base isolation. Layers of alternating stone and porous, compressible material were placed beneath their massive walls, acting as shock absorbers to dissipate the terrifying energy of earthquakes. This was a brilliant, preventative solution, not a crude reaction. Furthermore, the foundational axes of countless ancient temples, from Egypt too, are aligned with solstice sunrises or specific star patterns, proving that the very first stones laid were positioned using a deep, accumulated knowledge of mathematics and astronomy. How could such advanced concepts appear so fully formed, only to be forgotten and then rediscovered later? The persistence of these techniques hints at a possible thread, a continuity of expert knowledge that wove its way through different cultures and epochs, perhaps originating from a common, yet now lost, source. As we stand in awe of these marvels, we must also recognize the profound cultural act of building upon the old. It was not just about using a stable foundation. It was an acknowledgement of legacy, a deliberate choice to anchor a new vision to the enduring wisdom of a forgotten world. What other revolutionary innovations, solutions to problems we still face today, lie hidden just beneath our feet? Waiting for their story to be unearthed, this symbolic reuse of hallowed ground is a universal thread woven through human history. When a new temple or palace was erected atop the bones of an older one, it was rarely just for structural convenience. It was a profound act of cultural inheritance, a way for a community to physically root its identity in a deep, shared past, ensuring its stories and spiritual power would not be forgotten. The archaeological record is filled with these deliberate acts of continuity. At the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, deep probes have revealed a stunning vertical timeline of faith. The foundations of the first and second temples rest directly upon the stone footings of even earlier Canaanite shrines. This layering tells a powerful story of a location so sacred that its spiritual significance transcended conquests, political upheavals, and dramatic religious changes for thousands of years. Each new culture that arrived did not simply erase what came before. They built upon it, honoring the legacy of the place while imprinting it with their own beliefs. This practice of ritual incorporation was taken to an even more intimate level in the Maya, for instance, frequently encapsulated entire older pyramids within new, larger constructions. Before sealing an old platform, they would often place dedicatory caches in the foundational layers, bundles containing precious jade, ceremonial blades, or the resting places of revered ancestors. This was not burial in a simple sense. It was a deliberate act of planting spiritual seeds, a way to infuse the new structure with the accumulated power and blessings of those who came before. Ensuring the community's connection to its origins remained unbroken. In Mesopotamia, this concept was formalized into statecraft. Rulers laying the foundations for their massive ziggurats would deposit clay cylinders or stone boxes filled with inscriptions. These foundation deposits explicitly named the king and linked his reign to the gods and the heroic deeds of ancient founders. This was a powerful tool for legitimizing authority, weaving the new leader's story directly into the fabric of a timeless, divine order. The psychological impulse behind this is deeply human. By building upon hallowed ground, societies transformed physical space into a living repository of social memory. It created a tangible link between the present and a mythical, ancestral time, blurring the line between innovation and tradition. A new king was not an upstart. He was the latest custodian of an eternal legacy. A new temple was not a break from the past. It was the next chapter in a never-ending story. This enduring practice challenges our modern view of history as a series of clean breaks and fresh starts. It reveals a more profound truth, that cultural identity is often forged through continuity, through the conscious and repeated act of honoring the foundations upon which we stand. To truly map these connections across the abyss of time, we rely on a suite of advanced technologies that allow us to listen to the whispers rising from the deep earth. These advanced technologies act as a new kind of vision, allowing us to see the invisible. LIDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging, fires millions of laser pulses from an aircraft toward the ground. When these pulses hit the surface, they bounce back, creating a precise, three-dimensional map of the terrain below. Its true power is its ability to strip away the dense veil of the jungle canopy, revealing the human-made landscape hidden for centuries. At the great Maya city of Tikal, LIDAR did not just find a few new structures. It revealed an entire metropolis, exposing a vast grid of raised causeways, reservoirs, and the foundational platforms of thousands of previously unknown buildings. Most remarkably, it showed that the grand plazas and pyramids of the classic period were built directly over the foundations of much older, simpler ceremonial centers, proving the city's sacred heart had been beating for far longer than anyone knew. This technology transforms a single site into a sprawling urban network, rewriting the scale of ancient civilizations in a single sweep. Another powerful method listens to the electrical whispers of the soil. Electrical resistivity tomography works by sending a small current into the ground and measuring how easily it flows. Stone foundations and walls resist the current, creating a high-resistance signal, while filled-in pits and voids allow electricity to pass more freely. This creates a subterranean map of contrasts, a ghost image of what lies beneath. At the Neolithic settlement of, where houses were built like a massive honeycomb, this technique detected unexpected anomalies deep under the famous mud brick walls. It revealed large, enclosed spaces that may have served as communal storage or ritual chambers, spaces that were deliberately sealed and built over, suggesting a complex social structure and a layered use of space that simple excavation could have missed. This non-invasive approach lets us ask new questions without ever lifting a trowel. From high above, multispectral imaging captures a different kind of clue. This technology sees light beyond the range of human vision, detecting subtle differences in plant health and growth. When ancient foundations lie just below the surface, they affect the soil depth and moisture content. Plants growing directly above a buried stone wall may be stunted and stressed, while those over a rich, organic-filled storage pit may grow taller and greener. These differences are invisible to our eyes, but to a multispectral sensor, they form clear patterns, like a crop circle revealing a hidden blueprint. This method has painted hidden Roman villas across the fields of Britain and unveiled colossal geometric earthworks, lost for centuries beneath the lush canopy of the Amazon rainforest. Each discovery adds another piece to the global puzzle of our deep past. Together, these tools are creating a quiet revolution in archaeology. They allow for the preservation of context, leaving fragile sites undisturbed for future generations while still unlocking their secrets. Researchers can now model entire ancient landscapes in stunning detail, tracing the developmental phases of a city from its humble beginnings to its grand finale. The accelerating pace of discovery forces us to reevaluate historical narratives we have long taken for granted. What comes next is even more transformative. How will emerging artificial intelligence, capable of sifting through mountains of this new data to find patterns invisible to the human eye, further reshape our understanding? Could quantum sensing, with its potential to detect the faintest magnetic fields of long-vanished hearths, allow us to virtually reconstruct not just the bones of a settlement, but the very pulse of its daily life? With these tools, we are no longer just digging up the past, we are beginning to see it whole. The timeline of human history is not a simple line, but a vast, branching tree with roots reaching back into a deep and forgotten past. Discoveries from deep core foundations are actively redrawing the map of civilization's dawn, pushing the origins of complex society much further back than our textbooks ever allowed. At Padang in Indonesia, core samples and subsurface imaging reveal something staggering. Beneath the visible megalithic stones lies a massive, layered structure, a potential pyramid built in phases over. Initial analysis of organic materials from its deepest layers suggests initial construction could date to an almost unbelievable 20,000 years before the Common Era. This is not just an old site. It is a relic from a time when human culture was supposedly limited to small, nomadic bands of hunter-gatherers. If these findings are confirmed, they shatter the conventional narrative that places the birth of advanced architecture in Sumer or Egypt mere thousands of years ago. It suggests that the drive to reshape the world on a monumental scale is a much more ancient human impulse. A similar story is emerging from the waters off the coast of India. The submerged city of, long considered a mere legend from Hindu texts, has yielded stone foundations, pottery, and other artifacts that point to multiple phases of occupation. The deepest layers, now underwater, align with descriptions of a glorious, ancient city that existed thousands of years before the currently accepted timeline for urban development in the region. These are not isolated anomalies. From the Andes to the Anatolian Plateau, the message from the subsoil is consistent. Our past is far longer and more complex than we have dared to believe. This evidence supports a long chronology for humanity, a vision of our story defined not by a single, steady ascent, but by repeated cycles. Cultures may have risen to incredible heights of social organization and technological skill, only to face collapse from climate shifts, geological events, or other unknown pressures. Their grand achievements would vanish from the surface, leaving only their most deeply buried foundations as cryptic clues for the future. This paradigm shift demands a profound humility. It forces us to acknowledge that our current understanding of history is a work in progress, a sketch based on the most recent chapters of a very long book. We must confront the possibility that past societies achieved forms of sophistication that were completely lost to time, only to be rediscovered or reinvented later. What does this mean for our own definition of progress? We often measure advancement through a linear lens of technological accumulation. But these deep foundations suggest that complexity can manifest in different ways across different cycles. A society's greatest achievement might not be a specific invention, but its resilience, its ability to live in harmony with its environment for thousands of years, leaving a legacy not of pollution, but of enriched soil and sustainable foundations. This broader perspective weaves these disparate ancient sites into a connected global tapestry. It invites us to look beyond isolated ruins and see the shared patterns of human ambition and adaptation etched into the very bedrock of our world. These global echoes in stone and star are too consistent to be mere coincidence. When we look at the foundational techniques used to erect the massive stones of Stonehenge, the endless rows at Karnak, and the solitary of Easter Island, we see a shared architectural language spoken across vast oceans of time and space. The methods for moving these colossal weights, from the use of log rollers and levers to the carving of precise mortise and tenon joints, appear in cultures that supposedly had no contact. This points not to a single master architect, but to a diffuse tradition, a slow-burning cultural phenomenon where the knowledge of working with megaliths spread, was adapted, and was perfected independently by peoples separated by continents. It was a global revolution in stone, a testament to a shared human impulse to build for the ages. This connection extends beyond engineering and into the heavens. The foundational axes of the Great Pyramid were aligned with uncanny precision to the cardinal directions, a feat mirrored thousands of years later at Angkor Wat, where the temple complex is oriented to capture the sun on the spring equinox. In North America, the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio coils across the landscape, its head aligned with the summer solstice sunset. These are not random acts of construction. They are deliberate, foundational choices that reveal a universal human engagement with the cosmos. Our ancestors, from the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Cambodia, were looking up, using the predictable cycles of the sky to anchor their most sacred places to a cosmic order, creating a terrestrial map of the heavens. The very ground they chose to build upon was also part of a global pattern. Sites like the Oracle at Delphi in Greece or the sacred Black Hills of the Lakota were not chosen at random. They were often located along perceived lines, near powerful water sources, or atop geological anomalies that were felt to hold a unique energy. This ancient practice of geomancy, of reading the subtle energies of the earth, guided foundational placement from one culture to the next. It was an understanding that a location's power came not just from its strategic defense or resources, but from its spiritual and energetic resonance within the living landscape. These profound parallels force us to abandon the outdated model of history as a series of isolated, rising civilizations. Instead, we see a dynamically interconnected ancient world, a vibrant tapestry woven with threads of shared knowledge. Ideas about astronomy, stoneworking, and sacred geography could have traveled along trade routes like the Silk Road, or been carried by migratory waves across land bridges now submerged beneath the sea. This new narrative is not about finding a single lost mother culture, but about recognizing a long, slow conversation happening across, a conversation where innovation was a collaborative human project. How might this perspective of a connected past inspire our own future? It suggests that our deepest strengths have always emerged from exchange and shared understanding. Yet this very evidence of our interconnected heritage is now facing unprecedented threats, and the race to preserve it has never been more urgent. The very layers that preserve our past are now under siege from the modern world. When a deep core foundation is exposed after of stable burial, its most fragile records can vanish in an instant. Delicate organic materials, like ancient wood or woven textiles, rapidly crumble upon contact with the air. Subtle soil contexts, which tell the story of a single ceremonial event, are obliterated by a single misplaced footstep. This creates an agonizing dilemma for researchers. To excavate is to learn, but it is also an irreversible act of destruction. The choice to dig is a choice to forever alter a non-renewable archive, a decision that must be weighed with tremendous care. For many indigenous communities, this is not merely an academic concern. The deep foundations are seen as the resting places of living ancestors, integral to cultural identity and spiritual practice. Disturbing these layers is not just damaging, it is a profound desecration. A growing ethical framework in archaeology now prioritizes non-invasive methods, using ground-penetrating radar and core sampling to gather data without large-scale excavation. Collaborative stewardship models are emerging, where descendant communities have a central voice in deciding if, when, and how to investigate the ground beneath their feet. This partnership shifts the focus from mere extraction of artifacts to a shared guardianship of collective heritage. Beyond the excavation site, a far larger threat is accelerating. Climate change is actively dissolving the very foundations of history. Rising sea levels are silently infiltrating the waterlogged timbers beneath Venice, threatening to rot the pilings that have supported the city for over 1,000 years. In Alexandria, Egypt, coastal erosion is eating away at the submerged foundations of the ancient lighthouse and royal quarter, scattering irreplaceable structural evidence into the Mediterranean depths. Inland, increased rainfall and severe droughts are causing unprecedented soil erosion, exposing and destabilizing subsurface deposits at an alarming rate. These are not future problems. They are ongoing crises, erasing chapters of human history before we even know they exist. Compounding this is the persistent scourge of looting. Treasure hunters, seeking artifacts for the illegal antiquities market, tunnel directly into foundational layers. They are not interested in soil context or stratigraphic sequence. They rip ceremonial objects and human remains from their resting places, shattering the narrative and leaving behind only meaningless holes in the ground. Each looted artifact represents a lost sentence in the story of a civilization, a story we can never fully read again. This stark reality forces a critical question upon us all. How do we cultivate a global ethic of stewardship for these hidden, fragile chapters of our shared past? The answer lies in a multifaceted approach, combining robust international laws to protect cultural property with widespread public education that frames these sites not as treasure troves, but as irreplaceable libraries of human experience. The future of discovery may depend less on what we unearth and more on what we collectively choose to leave undisturbed for the generations to come. This ethical compass now points us toward the next frontier of exploration, where artificial intelligence and quantum sensing promise to reveal the past without ever touching a stone. This invisible revolution in archaeology is quietly forging a new kind of science, one built on deep collaboration. The future of uncovering our past lies not in a single field, but in the powerful fusion of archaeology with genetics, climatology, and advanced data science. Imagine a team on a dig site where a core sample is pulled from the earth. Instead of sending it to a distant lab for months of analysis, a portable device can immediately sequence the ancient DNA of plants, animals, and even the microbes that lived in that soil. Reading the biological story of the foundation layer in real time, this is not science fiction. These tools, combined with techniques like neutron activation analysis that pinpoint the exact elemental fingerprint of a stone block, allow researchers to instantly identify where materials originated and how old they are, all without leaving the site. This transforms a solitary excavation into a dynamic, multi-layered investigation, building comprehensive models of how ancient societies interacted with their environment across centuries. This wave of discovery is also becoming a shared, global endeavor. Open data platforms and citizen science initiatives are inviting people everywhere to participate. You could be analyzing satellite imagery from your home computer, helping to identify subtle topographic anomalies that signal a buried foundation, or transcribing excavation records from a dig halfway across the world. This democratization of archaeology fosters a broader, more intimate appreciation for our collective cultural heritage, making everyone a custodian of the deep past. The search itself is becoming exponentially more efficient through artificial intelligence. Machine learning algorithms can now process vast amounts of topographic, geological, and historical data to predict the most likely locations for significant deep-core foundations. This is particularly vital in remote jungles or beneath modern cities, where traditional surveys are impossible. These predictive models act as a treasure map for time, guiding researchers directly to the most promising sites and preserving resources for in-depth study. As these advances accelerate, we stand on the brink of revelations that could completely rewrite our understanding of human migration, technological exchange, and social organization. We may soon uncover foundations that prove cultural connections across oceans we thought were impassable, or find evidence of social structures far more complex than we attributed to early hunter-gatherers. Each discovery will not simply fill a gap in our knowledge. It will challenge the very framework of our historical narrative, revealing a human story far more intricate and beautifully interconnected than we ever imagined. What new mysteries will we solve with these tools, and what deeper, more profound questions will arise from the answers we find? This forward-looking vision inevitably brings us to a final, reflective consideration of what these layered foundations ultimately mean for our own place in the long arc of human history. These layered foundations beneath our feet are not just architectural facts, they are a philosophical challenge carved in stone. The realization that our most ancient sites are built upon the ghosts of even older societies forces a fundamental rethinking of human history itself. Our cherished narrative of a straight, upward line of progress, from primitive beginnings to our current peak of achievement, begins to crumble. In its place, we see a more complex and humbling pattern, a great wheel of time where cultures rise to dazzling heights of knowledge and social organization, only to recede, their grandest accomplishments lost to memory, leaving only their deepest foundations as silent witnesses. This is not a story of replacement, but of resonance, where the ambitions of one age become the subconscious foundation for the next. The technological mastery, evident in polygonal masonry or celestial alignment, appearing fully formed in the deepest layers, suggests that complexity is not a permanent possession. It can be gained, lost, and perhaps rediscovered across the vast stretches of deep time. Our modern era, for all its stunning innovation, may not be a unique culmination. We might simply be the latest expression of a recurring human potential, living through another turn of the great cycle. This perspective invites a necessary humility. It asks us to consider that the solutions to our most pressing modern challenges, from environmental resilience to sustainable urban planning, might not be entirely new inventions. They could be rediscoveries, echoes of adaptive strategies perfected by ancient builders who learned to live in balance with their world. For the intricate water management grid beneath Angkor Wat or the seismic-resistant foundations of Minoan palaces are not just curiosities. They are time-tested blueprints for survival, offering profound lessons if we are willing to listen. On a personal level, this deep-time view can be strangely liberating. It expands our sense of self, connecting our individual lives to a vast, shared human journey that spans tens of thousands of years. We are not isolated beings in a brand new world. We are the current inheritors of an immense legacy of ingenuity and resilience, standing on the shoulders of countless generations whose names we will never know. Their struggles, their innovations, and their very DNA are woven into the fabric of our present. This connection fosters a deeper appreciation for our collective ancestors, not as primitive figures, but as intelligent problem solvers whose wisdom is still encoded in the land. This knowledge also brings a profound ethical responsibility. If we are part of this cyclical pattern, then we are also future ancestors. The foundations we lay today, both literal and cultural, will one day be studied by those who come after us. What story will our concrete and steel tell? Will it speak of short-sighted consumption or of thoughtful stewardship? The imperative to preserve the fragile foundations of the past becomes a mirror, reflecting our duty to build a future worthy of becoming a deep, stable layer in the great strata of human history. How will this reevaluation of where we come from shape our vision for where we are going when we piece together the evidence? A profound new picture of our past comes into focus. The deep core stratigraphy, the startling dates from radiocarbon analysis, the architectural fingerprints of lost engineering schools, and the persistent whispers from mythology are not isolated clues. They are threads of a single, vast tapestry, weaving a cumulative case for a human story far older and more intricate than our traditional timelines allow. This is not about any one discovery, but about the undeniable pattern they form when viewed together. From the sunken landscapes of, where the bones of mammoths mingle with the tools of ancient hunters on a plain now submerged beneath the North Sea, to the massive earthen platform mounds of the Mississippi Valley that conceal older, simpler sacred structures within their cores, the story is the same. These are not random anomalies. They are markers of a global phenomenon, a testament to widespread societal development in deep antiquity that simply does not fit the conventional framework. The staggering foundation stones at Baalbek, known as the each weighing over 800 tons, present an engineering puzzle that defies easy explanation. How were such monoliths moved and positioned with such precision? The submerged geometric formations near Bimini, whether natural or artificial, provoke similar questions about human activity during periods of lower sea levels. These sites challenge our assumptions about the technological capabilities of ancient peoples. They invite us to consider that our current historical models, while valuable, are incomplete. Healthy scientific skepticism is essential, but so is following the data where it leads. The converging lines of evidence from geology, astronomy, and materials science are creating a weight that is increasingly difficult to ignore. The overarching narrative of human civilization is transforming before our eyes. It is no longer a simple, linear ascent, but a story of depth and cyclical resilience, punctuated by periods of forgotten brilliance. This accumulated knowledge points to a fundamental truth about humanity. Our drive to build, to understand the cosmos, and to leave a lasting mark is a deep-seated, timeless impulse. We are a species that continually reaches for grandeur, and our greatest legacies are often those built upon the wisdom of those who came before. Understanding this changes our relationship with time itself and reshapes our sense of place in the long, unbroken chain of human experience. This profound shift in perspective reaches beyond the academic and touches something deeply personal within us. When we learn that the ground beneath a familiar monument holds the footprints of a dozen lost cultures, our sense of time itself expands. The thousand-year gap between our modern world and the Roman Empire suddenly feels like a mere moment, a single layer in a much deeper story. We begin to see the entire human journey not as a series of isolated events, but as a continuous, flowing river of ambition and adaptation. This realization can be both humbling and empowering, connecting our individual lives to a grand, intergenerational project. We are not just observers of history. We are living participants in a narrative that has been unfolding for tens of thousands of years. How does that change the way you walk through your own city or town, knowing that every place has its own hidden depths? This expanded view naturally cultivates a deeper respect for the incredible tapestry of human cultures. Recognizing that a sacred site was revered by one people, then built upon by another, and later adopted by a third, challenges simplistic notions of ownership and legacy. It reveals a shared heritage of striving, a common human drive to create meaning and leave a mark upon the world. We see that cultural identity is not a static possession, but a dynamic process of borrowing, blending, and building upon what came before. This understanding encourages us to listen more carefully to the stories of others, to appreciate the unique contributions of every community, and to see the beauty in our interconnected past. It transforms history from a record of conflicts into a chronicle of continuous, collaborative creation. Engaging with these mysteries also sharpens our minds. It teaches us to hold two seemingly contradictory ideas at once. We learn to value the rigorous, evidence-based timeline constructed by radiocarbon dating, while also appreciating the profound historical truths preserved in ancient myths and oral traditions. This is in critical thinking. It invites us to question the authoritative narratives we were taught, to look for the hidden foundations, and to seek out the evidence for ourselves. The world becomes a more fascinating place when you start to look for the layers, when you understand that the official story is often just the most recent draft. This intellectual curiosity is a powerful tool, one that can be applied to understanding our modern world just as effectively as the ancient one. For many, this knowledge sparks a desire to become an active participant in the story. It might lead someone to volunteer with a local historical society, to carefully document their own family's oral history, or to simply walk their neighborhood with fresh eyes, noticing the older architecture and wondering what lies beneath the modern pavement. You do not need to travel to a distant pyramid to uncover deep foundations. The industrial-era factory in your city might be built atop the foundations of a colonial-era farm, which itself was situated on an ancient indigenous trail. Every community is a living archaeological site, with its own hidden chapters waiting for a curious mind to ask the right questions. Ultimately, these discoveries remind us that history is not a closed book written by distant figures. It is a living, breathing conversation between the past and the present. We are in a constant state of co-creation with those who came before us, adding our own layer to the human story. The foundations we pour today, both literal and metaphorical, will one day be the deep core mystery for a future generation to uncover. This places a profound responsibility upon our shoulders, but also offers a timeless hope. Our actions, our innovations, and our care for the world will become the next stratum in the great geological record of human existence. How will you choose to build upon the legacy you have inherited? This personal reflection on our place in deep time naturally leads us into the vibrant and sometimes contentious debates that drive the field forward. These scholarly debates are the engine of discovery, not signs of a broken process. Within university halls and academic journals, a vibrant and sometimes fierce dialogue unfolds over how to interpret the whispers from the deep earth. One central tension revolves around the interpretation of data itself. Some researchers urge extreme caution, warning against the allure of grand, speculative theories that can outpace the available evidence. They emphasize the necessity of rigorous methodology, reproducible results, and the slow, painstaking work of peer review. For every astonishing claim of a lost civilization, they ask for multiple, corroborating lines of proof from different scientific disciplines. This conservative approach acts as a crucial quality control, ensuring the foundation of our knowledge is built on solid, verifiable bedrock. On the other side of this debate are voices advocating for a more expansive perspective. They argue that truly paradigm-shifting discoveries often begin as anomalies that do not fit the established model. They encourage a willingness to follow the data, even when it leads to uncomfortable or unconventional conclusions, suggesting that an over-reliance on traditional frameworks can sometimes blind us to the true complexity of the past. The goal is not to prove a preconceived idea, but to allow the evidence, no matter how strange, to guide the narrative. This philosophical conflict becomes strikingly clear at locations like the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. Here, claims of massive, ancient artificial structures are met with geological assessments that identify the same features as entirely natural formations. The debate is not merely about the age of a hill, but about the very methods used to distinguish human engineering from geological processes. Proponents point to perceived stone paving and geometric symmetry, while mainstream geologists see the predictable results of sediment deposition and tectonic activity. This site has become a focal point for the wider tension between mainstream archaeology and alternative historical narratives. It highlights a critical question: where is the line between a legitimate, open-minded investigation and a departure from scientific rigor? These clashes, while often heated, force both sides to sharpen their arguments and defend their evidence, ultimately strengthening the standards of the entire field. Similar controversies simmer around the very clocks we use to measure time. The age of the Sphinx enclosure in Egypt, for instance, remains a topic of ongoing discussion. The traditional dating places its construction alongside the pharaoh in the Old Kingdom. However, a minority of researchers point to geological evidence of water erosion on the enclosure walls, suggesting the structure weathered significant rainfall, a condition that existed earlier. This debate hinges on the interpretation of erosion patterns and challenges the established chronological timeline. Likewise, the validity of carbon samples extracted from the deepest, most ancient layers is frequently scrutinized. Critics may question whether a piece of charcoal used for dating was truly meaning it was deposited during the construction event, or if it could have filtered down from a later period through cracks or animal burrows. These disputes underscore the immense difficulty of creating an unassailable timeline and the constant need for multiple, independent dating methods to cross-verify results. Beyond the science, profound ethical debates concern the very ownership of the past. When deep core foundations are located on indigenous lands or sacred sites, scientific inquiry must navigate a delicate path. The desire for knowledge can conflict with cultural protocols that view disturbance of the earth as a violation. Who has the right to tell the story of these foundational layers? The academic institution or the descendant community whose ancestors built them? A growing movement within archaeology asserts that these are not mutually exclusive. It champions collaborative governance models, where research questions are developed in partnership, and indigenous knowledge is respected as a valid and crucial source of information. This approach transforms the process from one of extraction to one of shared stewardship, ensuring that the pursuit of understanding does not come at the cost of cultural dignity. While these conflicts can seem divisive, they are ultimately essential for the health of the field. They push researchers to refine their tools, to be more transparent with their data, and to consider perspectives they might have otherwise overlooked. The challenge now is to foster a constructive dialogue where skepticism does not become dismissal and open-mindedness does not veer into credulity. How can these different viewpoints, each with its own validity, communicate in a way that enriches our collective understanding rather than fracturing it? The answer may lie in a shared commitment to the evidence, a mutual respect for different forms of knowledge, and a recognition that the mystery of our deep past is vast enough to require many kinds of explorers. This vital discourse within the academic community finds its necessary counterpart in the wider world, where public fascination and accessible technology are opening up the search to everyone. The conversation around our deep past is no longer confined to academic journals. It unfolds in our living rooms through television screens and on our phones via social media feeds, making public engagement a powerful and double-edged force. Media coverage and documentaries have an incredible capacity to democratize discovery, bringing the thrill of a foundational layer found deep beneath the earth to a global audience. This widespread access can ignite a passion for history in a young person halfway across the world, potentially inspiring the next generation of archaeologists and guardians of our shared heritage. Yet this very power carries a significant risk. When complex stratigraphic evidence is compressed into a 30-second clip or framed as a shocking revelation, the nuance is often the first casualty. High-profile television programs, while undeniably popular, sometimes prioritize mysterious music and dramatic narration over the slow, meticulous work of evidence. They might present a compelling but highly speculative theory about a deep core foundation as a near certainty, leaving viewers with a distorted understanding of both the evidence and the scientific process. This can create a frustrating gap between public perception and archaeological reality, where genuine mysteries are overshadowed by sensationalized fiction. The result is a misconception not just about a specific site, but about the capabilities of ancient societies themselves, reducing their real, breathtaking ingenuity to implausible fantasies. In contrast, responsible journalism and educational content serve as a vital bridge. Documentaries that take the time to show the careful work of coring drills, the patient sorting of soil samples, and the collaborative debates between experts do more than just inform. They foster a deep, authentic appreciation for the scientific journey. They transform the public from passive consumers into informed partners in discovery. This informed citizenry is crucial, as it creates a groundswell of support for preservation efforts and public funding, ensuring that research into our foundational past can continue. Technology is now offering even more direct ways for people to participate. Imagine slipping on a virtual reality headset and descending through the layers of time at a place like, watching the Pyramid of the Sun slowly deconstruct to reveal the ancient lava tube cave at its heart. Interactive online databases allow anyone to examine three-dimensional models of core samples, to see the subtle color changes in the soil that mark different construction phases. These tools are not just for show. They enable true community science, where dedicated amateurs can help professionals scan thousands of satellite images for telltale signs of buried structures, or categorize pottery fragments from digital archives. This collective effort accelerates discovery while building a global community of stewards for cultural heritage. So how do we, as viewers and enthusiasts, navigate this landscape? We can become more critical consumers by asking simple questions. Who is presenting this information, and what are their credentials? Is the evidence being presented in context, or is it isolated to seem more mysterious? Are alternative viewpoints from mainstream archaeology given a fair hearing? By seeking out content from reputable institutions and supporting creators who value accuracy, we vote with our attention for a more truthful and profound exploration of the past. This collaborative spirit, blending public curiosity with scientific rigor, naturally leads us to consider the very tangible economic forces that both support and threaten these fragile windows into deep time. A newfound layer of history can transform a local economy overnight. The moment a site reveals evidence of a deeper, older past, it ceases to be a simple ruin and becomes a multi-layered mystery, attracting global attention and the visitors that follow. This influx of interest brings tangible benefits, creating a surge in local employment. New roles emerge not just in guiding and hospitality, but in the specialized fields of site conservation, archaeological assistance, and the management of visitor facilities. The ancient city of Belize offers a powerful example. The discovery of its massive pre-Mayan foundational platforms, evidence of an earlier and more powerful phase of construction, fundamentally altered the site's narrative. It was no longer just another Maya center. It became a place where one could trace the rise of a forgotten kingdom, a story with greater depth that now draws significantly more tourists, directly funding both ongoing research and community development. This creates a virtuous cycle, where the revenue generated from tourism can be reinvested into the very science that made the discovery possible, funding further excavations and advanced scanning technologies. Yet this wave of opportunity carries a significant risk. The same fragile subsurface layers that hold the key to the past are incredibly vulnerable to the pressure of thousands of footsteps. Unmanaged foot traffic can compact soils, destabilize ancient walls, and erase subtle stratigraphic contexts forever. The threat of looting also increases with a site's rising profile, as the illegal antiquities market seeks to profit from the newfound interest. This demands careful, often costly, planning. Sustainable tourism requires significant infrastructure investment, from building raised walkways that protect the ground below to constructing modern visitor centers that control the flow of people. The renowned site of Turkey demonstrates this model perfectly. Its stunning visitor center, with detailed models and exhibits explaining the daytime significance of the foundational layers, does more than just educate. It manages the human impact, directing curiosity in a way that safeguards the archaeology while stimulating the regional economy. The central challenge becomes one of balance. How can a community leverage this incredible cultural asset for sustainable development without loving it to death? The answer lies in a commitment to ethical stewardship, ensuring that commercial opportunities never compromise the site's integrity. This involves creating partnerships where the economic benefits from tourism, from hotel taxes to ticket sales, are shared equitably with local populations, giving them a direct stake in the long-term preservation of their heritage. When a community sees itself as the guardian of a deep historical legacy, rather than just a passive host, the focus shifts from short-term exploitation to long-term conservation. This delicate interplay between economic potential and preservation ethics inevitably draws in the power of the law, raising questions of ownership and protection on a national and international scale. These legal protections form a vital shield for the fragile pages of our deep history. International agreements, like the UNESCO World Heritage Convention, provide a powerful framework for safeguarding sites with significant subsurface archaeology. When a location receives this designation, it commits the nation to a higher standard of conservation, ensuring that the management of the visible ruins also protects the irreplaceable foundational layers beneath. This global recognition helps marshal resources and expertise, creating a united front for preservation. On a national level, laws such as the Archaeological Resources Protection Act in the United States establish clear rules, regulating excavations and imposing serious penalties for looting and vandalism. These legal instruments acknowledge that the story buried in the ground is a non-renewable resource, a part of our collective inheritance that must be defended. Yet the strength of this defense is not uniform across the globe. Enforcement can be inconsistent, and the resources for monitoring vast archaeological landscapes are often stretched thin, leaving many vulnerable sites exposed to risk. This patchwork of protection underscores why international cooperation is not just beneficial, but essential. The tragic fate of Palmyra in Syria stands as a sobering example. During the conflict, the world watched as monumental structures were deliberately targeted. But the threat extended far below the surface, endangering the very foundations that held the key to the city's earliest chapters. In response, organizations like UNESCO and the International Council on Monuments and Sites, or ICOMOS, mobilized rapidly. They documented damage, supported emergency stabilization, and worked to combat the illegal trafficking of artifacts looted from these deep layers. This global effort highlights a profound truth that heritage knows no borders, and its protection is a shared human responsibility. Beyond physical preservation, these legal frameworks are increasingly grappling with complex issues of justice and ownership. The repatriation of artifacts and human remains taken from deep core layers is a growing focus, a process of returning these items to their descendant communities. This is coupled with a push for intellectual property rights, ensuring that the knowledge gained from studying these sites is managed in consultation with the people whose ancestors built them. The goal is to move from a model of extraction to one of partnership, where scientific inquiry serves the public good and honors cultural dignity. As our ability to discover these hidden foundations accelerates with non-invasive technologies, our legal systems must evolve in tandem. Future protections will need to formally recognize the value of data gathered from ground-penetrating radar and LIDAR, and to enshrine community-based governance models that give local and indigenous voices a central role in stewardship. This raises a crucial question for all of us. How can global citizens advocate for stronger legal safeguards for our shared heritage? The answer begins with awareness and support for the organizations on the front lines of this work. It extends to responsible travel, to learning the deep history of our own communities, and to fostering a culture that values the hidden stories beneath our feet as much as the monuments above. This legal perspective, focused on guardianship, naturally points toward its most powerful ally, a foundation of knowledge and care built through education in every community. The classroom itself can become a portal to these buried worlds. Educational initiatives that weave the study of deep core foundations into school curricula do more than teach history. They cultivate a new way of seeing the world. For a young student, a simulated stratigraphic dig in a sandbox, carefully brushing away layers to uncover replica artifacts, transforms an abstract concept into a tangible, thrilling discovery. They are not just learning about the past, they are practicing the methods of uncovering it, feeling the patient discipline required to read the story written in the soil. This hands-on approach reveals the deeply interdisciplinary heart of modern archaeology, showing how science, history, and art converge to solve a single, grand mystery. At the university level, this foundation blossoms into specialized expertise. Degree programs in or archaeological science equip the next generation with the technical skills to operate ground-penetrating radar, analyze sediment cores, and interpret the complex data these tools provide. These are the future professionals who will continue to refine our timeline, ensuring that the pipeline of discovery remains strong for decades to come. But the journey does not end in the lecture hall. Public understanding is the ultimate guardian of our shared heritage. Museum exhibits that display actual core samples next to vibrant reconstructions of the societies they represent make the invisible visible. Online courses and public lectures break down the barriers of distance and expertise, allowing anyone with curiosity to learn how a layer of crushed seashells in a foundation can rewrite the history of coastal trade. These platforms highlight the dramatic revisions to human history made possible by deep core evidence, encouraging a healthy, critical perspective on how we know what we think we know. The most powerful educational models, however, are built on partnership. When academic institutions collaborate with local and indigenous communities, they create inclusive learning environments that honor traditional knowledge passed down through generations alongside data gathered by satellite. A tribal elder's story about a sacred spring can provide the crucial context that helps scientists understand why a foundation was laid in a specific location, enriching the narrative for everyone involved. This collaborative spirit raises a vital question for our global community. How can we ensure these transformative educational opportunities reach diverse learners in every corner of the world, fostering a universal sense of stewardship for our deep human past? This foundational work of education finds its natural partner in the creative power of art, which gives visible form to the whispers rising from the earth. These artistic reconstructions breathe life into the silent data. A ground-penetrating radar scan reveals a ghostly outline, a geometric anomaly buried deep in the earth. But it is the digital artist, working in close collaboration with archaeologists, who can translate that echo into a bustling marketplace or a quiet, torchlit shrine. They use the precise data from core samples and geophysical surveys as their architectural blueprint, then layer in historical research on materials and cultural practices to build a world. The result is a three-dimensional animation that can peel back time itself, showing the Acropolis not as a static ruin, but as a living hill. You can watch its transformation unfold, from the rough stone fortifications of the Mycenaean period to the radiant marble temples of the Classical Age, each phase growing from the deep foundations of the last. These models are far more than just beautiful visualizations. They are dynamic testing grounds for historical hypotheses. An architect can apply simulated forces to a virtual foundation, watching how the structure responds to an earthquake or the relentless weight of centuries. This can help explain why certain walls collapsed in a specific direction, or how a building's design evolved to become more resilient. Researchers can run virtual crowds through a reconstructed ceremonial space to analyze and acoustics, testing theories about how these places were actually used by the people who built them. This process turns abstract data into a functional, interactive laboratory of the past. The true power of this work shines when it embraces multiple perspectives. In places like the American Southwest, digital reconstructions of ancestral sites are now being created in direct partnership with native artists and community storytellers. This collaboration ensures that a virtual model of a kiva is not just architecturally accurate, but spiritually and culturally respectful, infused with the meanings and stories passed down through generations. The reconstruction gains a soul moving beyond a simple model to become an authentic narrative, one that honors both the empirical evidence and the living memory of descendant communities. For the public, these tools dismantle the barriers of time and technical jargon. Through virtual reality, anyone can stand in the center of a Bronze Age village, looking up at buildings that have not existed for 3,000 years. Augmented reality apps can overlay the ghost of a Roman basilica onto the empty field that exists today, allowing you to walk through its foundations as if they were still there. This immersive experience fosters a profound, emotional connection to history, transforming a list of facts into a felt memory. It makes the past immediate and personal. As excavation continues, these models are no longer static. They are evolving documents. Imagine a virtual reconstruction that updates in real time, incorporating new data the moment a coring drill reveals a previously unknown wall line or a cache of artifacts. This dynamic feedback loop between the physical dig and the digital model would create a living, breathing interpretation, a constantly refined vision of the past. These artistic endeavors are the essential bridge, connecting the cold, hard facts of the deep core foundations with the warm, beating heart of human imagination. These layers of earth and stone form a silent archive, but it is the archaeologist who gives them a voice. Narrative building is the delicate art of weaving a coherent story from the fragmented evidence of deep core foundations, transforming columns of soil and scattered artifacts into compelling accounts of human ambition. It is a process that combines hard scientific data with the broader sweep of historical context, creating a timeline that breathes with life and meaning. An archaeologist acts as a detective at a crime scene that spans, piecing together clues from a charred layer of soil that speaks of a catastrophic fire. A sudden shift in pottery styles that signals a new cultural influence, or the pollen of imported grains that reveals a revolution in agriculture. Each of these tiny details becomes a sentence in a larger story, whether it is the founding of a city, the dramatic expansion of a temple, or the slow, quiet collapse of a society. Every new construction phase, sealed beneath the next, adds another chapter to this uninterrupted chronicle. This narrative approach is not just about storytelling for its own sake. It serves a vital purpose in communicating complex, technical findings to the public. Dry data about soil resistivity or ceramic typology can feel distant and abstract. But when that same data is framed as a tale of a community's struggle against a changing climate, their spiritual devotion expressed in ever grander monuments, or the heartbreaking evidence of a city sacked and abandoned, it becomes instantly relatable. These are stories of innovation, conflict, adaptation, and spirituality that touch on universal human experiences, allowing us to see our own lives reflected in the dust of the past. Consider the foundational story of Rome, a narrative literally built layer upon layer. The deep core evidence tells a powerful tale that begins with the simple of Iron Age huts on the Palatine Hill. Above this, the stone footings of the Republican Forum mark the birth of a new political identity. Then come the colossal foundations of imperial basilicas, symbols of overwhelming power and global reach. This vertical timeline is not just a sequence of buildings. It is a story about the evolution of power, the forging of a collective identity, and a stunning resilience that saw the city constantly rebuild and reinvent itself. These themes of ambition, community, and endurance are as relevant to us today as they were 2,000 years ago. By framing their discoveries within these broader historical arcs, researchers do more than just explain a specific site. They use the deep core evidence to illuminate the human condition itself, exploring our shared drive to create, to connect, and to leave a mark that outlasts our own brief lives. What new stories of forgotten ingenuity and profound adaptation will emerge as we continue to dig deeper into the hidden foundations of our world? This incredible richness of narrative, drawn from the earth itself, prepares us for the final reflections on what these layered histories ultimately mean for our own place in the long arc of time. The deep earth remembers every shift in the weather. These foundational layers hold an unbroken record of the delicate dance between human ambition and the planet's changing moods. When a core sample reveals a sudden switch from timber to stone in a settlement's foundations, it often coincides with evidence of a prolonged drought, a practical response to the increased threat of fire. The very location of a city speaks volumes. A community might abandon its ancestral riverbank, moving its foundational stones to a defensible hilltop after repeated, catastrophic floods sealed their old home under layers of sterile silt. This is not a story of passive surrender, but of active, ingenious adaptation. Off the coast of Israel, the submerged ruins of Yam tell a poignant story from around 6,000 years before the Common Era. As sea levels rose, the inhabitants did not simply flee. They engineered their environment, constructing massive stone circles and raised platforms to keep their communal spaces above the encroaching. They dug deep, protective wells to guard their precious supply from contamination, a brilliant, heartbreaking effort to hold back the inevitable tide. Their deep foundations are a monument to resilience in the face of a global environmental transformation. In North America, the great city of Cahokia presents a different kind of climate story. Its towering mounds were built over generations, but core samples tell of a later phase of hardship. Sediment analysis reveals a period of intense, repeated flooding from the Mississippi River, which would have devastated the agricultural lands that fed the sprawling population. This environmental stress, captured in the soil, coincides with evidence of social unrest and a gradual reorganization of the society. The deep foundations do not show a sudden collapse, but a slow, strategic retreat from a location that could no longer support its grandeur. How do we read this climatic handwriting? The answer lies in the microscopic evidence trapped within the soil. Ancient pollen grains reveal what plants were thriving at the time. A sudden decline in tree pollen and a rise in hardy grasses can signal a drying climate. The chemistry of the soil itself, its isotopic signatures, can indicate periods of abundant rainfall or severe aridity. By cross-referencing this paleoclimate data with the construction phases of a foundation, researchers can create a precise timeline of human response. A new defensive wall might be built not because of a new enemy, but because of a new climate reality that sparked conflict over dwindling resources. This long-term perspective offers a powerful lesson for our own era. We are not the first generation to face environmental uncertainty, and we can look to these deep foundations for strategies of resilience. The ancient water catchment systems carved into the foundations of cities in the desert, or the sophisticated irrigation grids buried beneath Angkor, are blueprints for sustainable living in challenging environments. They teach us that survival is not about dominating nature, but about listening to it and adapting our foundations accordingly. The ground beneath our feet holds a deep-time conversation between humanity and the earth, a dialogue we would be wise to hear. This global conversation in stone and engineering was fueled by the silent highways of ancient trade. The deep foundations of a city like Mohenjo-Daro are a marvel of urban planning, but their true innovation lies in their universality. The same precisely proportioned bricks, the identical network of covered drains, and the shared architectural blueprints appear in settlements scattered across the Indus Valley and beyond. This was not a case of independent invention. It was the result of a vast, interconnected knowledge network, where the techniques for creating stable, flood-resistant foundations were a prized commodity, carried along trade routes by merchants and master builders. The movement of goods was inseparable from the movement of genius. A shipwreck discovered off the coast of Turkey, its hull filled with copper ingots, tells a story that transcends its cargo. When that same chemical signature of copper is found in the foundational pins of a temple in Mesopotamia, it charts a course of both commerce and technological exchange. Caravan stops in the deserts of Arabia reveal caches of obsidian blades, their volcanic glass traced to quarries hundreds of miles away. These artifacts, often discarded or lost, became sealed in the very foundation layers of distant cities, acting as permanent markers of the day a new idea or material arrived. This cross-pollination of engineering principles led to spectacular hybrid styles. In the ancient region of, located in modern-day Pakistan and Afghanistan, the deep core foundations of monasteries reveal a stunning fusion. Greek stonemasons, their techniques carried eastward by the conquests of Alexander, collaborated with local Buddhist artisans. The result was a foundational architecture that combined the load-bearing arches of the Mediterranean with the symbolic, symmetrical layouts of South Asia, creating a new structural language that was both physically resilient and spiritually resonant. Similarly, across North Africa, the foundations of Roman villas were often laid by local craftsmen who incorporated traditional Berber building methods, using materials and designs suited to the desert climate. All within a Roman architectural framework. This was not mere imitation. It was a pragmatic and brilliant adaptation where shared knowledge led to superior, more durable constructions. The flow of expertise did more than just raise grand buildings. It wove a web of mutual interest that could stabilize entire regions for centuries. A kingdom that relied on its neighbor for the limestone to make its foundation mortar, or for the skilled engineers to design its aqueducts, had a powerful incentive to maintain peaceful and prosperous relations. These technological partnerships became the bedrock of diplomacy, fostering an interdependence that encouraged long-term cooperation over conflict. The globalized nature of ancient foundation technology offers us a powerful lesson. It demonstrates that humanity's greatest architectural achievements were rarely the product of isolation, but of open exchange. Our modern challenges, from sustainable urban design to climate resilience, demand a similar collaborative spirit, a return to that ancient model of shared innovation for the common good. This tangible exchange of materials and methods was always accompanied by a deeper, symbolic layer of meaning, carefully placed within the foundation itself. The choice of stone was never just a matter of strength. For ancient builders, the very material of a foundation pulsed with spiritual meaning. A specific type of granite might be from a distant mountain not only for its durability, but because that mountain was considered the dwelling place of a deity. Its essence literally transferred into the heart of the city. The color of the stone, the presence of certain crystals, even the direction it faced when set in place, all carried profound symbolic weight. In the foundational layers of Hindu temples across India, for instance, the first stones laid were often dark, unpolished blocks, representing the formless, chaotic potential of creation before the ordered cosmos of the temple above could manifest. This was architecture as an act of genesis. The geometry of these foundational plans was a language in itself, a sacred code meant to mirror the structure of the universe. The mandala, a complex geometric figure representing the cosmos in Buddhist and Hindu traditions, was not merely a drawing. It was the literal blueprint for temples. The foundational layout of Borobudur in Indonesia is a massive, three-dimensional mandala in stone, its concentric terraces guiding the pilgrim on a symbolic journey from the earthly realm to spiritual enlightenment. Similarly, the foundational footprints of Greek temples frequently encoded the golden ratio, a mathematical proportion believed to represent perfect harmony and beauty. An echo of the divine order they saw in the natural world. By building upon these principles, they were not just constructing a shelter for worship, they were aligning human creation with the fundamental laws of existence. This celestial alignment was perhaps the most widespread symbolic practice. The foundational axis of Stonehenge was precisely calibrated to frame the sunrise on the summer solstice, an event that likely marked a critical point in both their agricultural calendar and their spiritual cycle. Far away in the Peruvian desert, the lines are essentially vast foundational drawings etched into the Earth's crust. While their full purpose remains debated, many of the long, straight lines point directly toward the position of the setting sun or important stars during solstices, transforming the entire plateau into a colossal astronomical observatory and a ceremonial landscape. This was not primitive stargazing. It was a sophisticated, long-term project to anchor their world to the reliable, majestic cycles of the cosmos. This symbolism was rendered in 3 dimensions. The deep foundations of pyramids like the Temple of the Inscriptions were conceived as symbolic portals to the underworld. Construction was a ritual of immense spiritual significance. Before the first stones of a new phase were laid, offerings were carefully placed in the deepest foundation pits. These could include precious jade, ceremonial blades, or specially chosen shells, each item a petition for protection and a blessing from the ancestors or the gods. This act sealed a sacred contract, infusing the practical structure with spiritual power and ensuring the community's continued favor with the forces that govern their world. Decoding this rich symbolic language does more than just explain an alignment or a shape. It reveals the ancient mind as profoundly philosophical and deeply connected to its environment. These builders were cosmologists, mathematicians, and theologians, whose greatest ambition was to weave their lives into a grand, cosmic narrative. They understood their buildings not as separate from the world, but as an integral part of it, a physical prayer built to last for the ages. This universal drive to create meaning through our foundations speaks to something timeless within us all, a desire to build not just for our own time, but for eternity itself. These deep foundations are a testament to a profound human need, the desire to create something that will outlast our own brief existence. The staggering amount of labor and resources poured into a single foundational platform, from the stone circles raised by Neolithic farmers to the pyramids that consumed the wealth of kingdoms, was never just about utility. It was a declaration, a bold attempt to carve a permanent mark onto the face of the planet, to achieve a kind of immortality through stone and earth. This was the ultimate act of faith in the future, a belief that the stories, values, and identity of a people could be preserved in the very ground they walked upon. These structures were anchors for collective memory, physical places where a community's sense of self could be rooted and remembered, generation after generation, even as languages changed and empires fell. The choice of location was rarely accidental. A foundation was laid where a mythic event occurred, where an ancestor was laid to rest, or where the heavens seemed to touch the earth. This tied the community's identity to a specific point in the landscape, creating a sacred geography that provided a continuous sense of place and purpose through times of great upheaval and change. The community was not just building a temple, they were building a home for their soul, a fixed point in a shifting world. This creates a fascinating dialogue across time. When a new society chose to build directly upon the deep foundations of an older one, it was often a conscious act of incorporation, not erasure. They were weaving their own story into an existing tapestry, acknowledging the power and sanctity of the location while adding their own chapter to its long history. The older foundation was not a ruin to be cleared away, but a sacred relic to be honored and built upon. This practice transformed these sites into living palimpsests, where the handwriting of one culture was written over, but never fully erased by the next. In exploring these layered foundations, we do more than just recover lost building techniques or precise dates. We reconnect with the most universal themes of the human experience. We see our own drive to create, our own struggles for resilience in the face of adversity, and our own eternal quest for meaning reflected back at us from the dust of. The stones speak of a shared ambition to transcend our mortality, to leave behind a story that will be told long after we are gone. This journey through deep time inevitably turns our gaze forward. As we stand as the current inheritors of this ancient legacy, we must ask ourselves a reflective question. What foundations are we laying today? What story will our concrete and steel tell future generations about our values, our vision, and our own place in the great, unbroken chain of human aspiration, so the next time you walk past an old building or stand atop a hill overlooking a city, pause for just a moment. Consider the ground beneath you, not as a passive stage, but as a living library. Each layer of soil holds the echoes of decisions made, technologies perfected, and beliefs held sacred by countless generations. From the celestial geometry encoded in Angkor Wat's foundations to the seismic wisdom locked within the polygonal stones of, these are not relics of a primitive past. They are the work of brilliant minds, our intellectual and spiritual ancestors, whose legacy of innovation and resilience is a testament to human potential. This journey through deep time reveals that our history is not a simple timeline of progress, but a vast, interconnected web. It is a story of continuous conversation, where each culture added its voice to an ongoing narrative of human ambition, building upon the foundations of those who came before. This perspective does not diminish our modern achievements, but enriches them, placing our own chapter within a much grander saga. We now have the tools and the responsibility to become stewards of this incredible inheritance. The greatest discovery is the realization that the search is never truly over. New layers are waiting to be read, new stories are waiting to be told. We invite you to carry this curiosity forward. Share what you have learned, question the stories you have been told, and look for the hidden depths in your own community. The quest to understand our shared past is a collective endeavor, one that relies on the wonder and engagement of everyone. What hidden foundation will we uncover next, and how will it reshape the story we tell about ourselves? The next chapter is yours to help write.